Hello everyone, this is Shining Noctowls, and today actually I want to do a bit of a interesting stream for a friend of mine. Her name is Jewel, and she had a request for me to do a stream for her to kind of showcase some of her ancestry, because she wanted to know that she was more than just quote unquote white toast or Anglo-Saxon or the term white American or whatever other term you wanna kind of use for that. And you guys might find this interesting that while there is some ancestry that is correct about what she has originally shared, there is more information that you guys might find interesting. So let's get to it, shall we? So if we go to Jewel's closest ancient populations, we find that indeed she is related to Anglo-Saxons, surprise, surprise, but she is related to more groups than just Anglo-Saxons, um, kind of debunking the kind of the idea that there are only that that her lineage would only come from those from one group of people or two groups. So it says here, let me read this. In the darkest days of the Roman Empire, a barbarian horde rose from villages stretching across the North Sea, terrorizing both sides of the English Channel. The Saxons were warrior kings who lived for glory and gold. It is said in the 5th century the British warlord Vortigern. I think Vortigern was a Welsh king at the time, and also was connected to the Red Dragon of Wales, I think. Let me check that. Red Dragon of Wales. Merlin, the magician, rescues King Vortigern. Thomas's title for this legend is why the Red Dragon is the emblem of Wales. The young Merlin told of Vortigern the Red Dragon represented his people, native Bretons, and their upcoming battles against invading Saxon armies who become the Anglo-Saxons. Okay, so it seems here. Okay, this is actually an interesting tidbit of history I've learned. So, um, from what I've heard about Vortigern, or I've also heard the name pronounced Vortigern, I believe, but Vortigern, I remember there was a kind of a legend in, or well, not just a legend, but really part of Welsh folklore about the Red Dragon of Wales protecting the Welsh people from the invading Saxons. And so it's interesting here that what Merlin had told Vortigern about the Saxons invading, he also had enlisted those same people to fight the Picts and the Scots. And the Picts were actually an Iron Age um, group of people that had lived in Scotland. Um, though I'm not 100% sure if all of them were connected to the Highlanders, though, actually. Sure, maybe some. Um, but it'll be interesting to learn about that. Um, are the modern Scottish Gaelic Highlanders, the ancient Picts and the Irish are cousins of a sort. The Pictish language is P-Celtic. Okay, so it would still fall under the branch of Celtic. So they would have come probably after the Gaels or after the Milesians, the sons of Neil. Highlanders of Scotland, the northern Picts called themselves Gaels. Okay, well, maybe I'd have to learn more about the Picts in particular. I know when I did my ancestry, I think I was connected to Picts to an extent. I'd have to kind of deep dive on that. Picts, Gaels, and Scots. Okay. They themselves believed they were descendants of the goddess Bridget, considered to be sacred and benevolent across the disparate communities of the Celtic world. Kenneth MacAlpin, considered to be Scotland's first king, was a descendant through his mother, and all Pictish kings was a consequence of the matrilineal system of inheritance. All right. To the Gaelic speakers who had arrived in Ireland, the Picts of what they call Alba, yeah, Albania. Okay, so here we go. Were known as the, probably gonna butcher this, but Cruinith, which translates into English as wheat growers. That name too was to be found use in Ireland at that time to describe the non-Gaels. Their land was known as Corinthua. The Corinth had populated Ireland before the arrival in Hibernia of the Gaels from Iberia. Okay. Okay, that's actually interesting. So this might have a connection. Let me see here. They had been displaced from the Celtic lands of Gaul, which they called Galati, the Sarmatians, Chatilians, Laura Garbala, yes, the Gaels. His son Niall wed the Egyptian princess Scotia, and from that union came the son Godel Glass, from whom came the Gaelic language and culture and language. What are the original 72 tongues? Niall and Scotia spent their time in Egypt before they left for Spain, leaving at the same time that the Hebrews departed. Whatever they had left to, they brought with them the accumulated knowledge of that civilization. Could it be from the first-born son of Japheth came the Picts, from the second-born came the Gaels? Two of the Danann. But two of the Danann could also be translated to two D, which means Stove's Crossing, so there's that. Sorry for these ads, guys. I'm gonna see if I can. Okay. So it seems like with the picks, um, to me it's almost like that they were described as non-Gaels, but they were also cousins to the Gaels in a way, which makes sense. Um, the picks were the late survival into the historical period of the indigenous non-Indo-European inhabitants of the British Celtic, or I prefer to call it Celtic Gallic Isles over British Isles, but that's just how I prefer to go about it. Megalithic builders. Pictish culture appears to directly be a continuation of the old customs. The megalithic builders of Bronze Age Britain. Okay. Picts possessed a distinctive culture scene, particularly in their exotic pottery, which the Romans said was akin to the Basque tongue. Okay, there you go. There's a connection. Basque country, by the way, would be in northeastern Spain and southern France, so there's a connection there. The Picts, so called by the Romans, called Curanith, Curuthni. I think that's how you pronounce it, Curuthni. By the Irish Gaels from the Q Celtic dialect, which maybe. Uh, okay, then. So the Picts, it looks like. Uh, hmm. It could be more than just an Iron Age people then. It could be the Picts had lived there longer, maybe. That's what it sounds like. That they were more so an indigenous group of people in Scotland. Yes, I think. Uh, Let me look here. Increasing connection between ruling Pictish and Gallic families accelerated as they worked together to defend their lands and people against brutal Viking attack. Okay, that made sense. Kinships merged, and gradually the Picts, as a distinctive society, were subsumed into Gallic culture and an emerging Scottish nation. That makes sense, yeah. So we would have probably. It sounds like with the Picts and us Gaels, we fought each other probably for a time, just like how the Vikings did with us, and then we learned to come together, and then we intermarried. Seems like that's kind of the gist of that. Okay, that makes sense. But they were more so. It sounds like they were. Picts are assumed to have been the descendants of the Kaludini and other Iron Age tribes. Okay, 800 before Common Era. All right. Caledini, Celtics tribe. Okay, so really, it might have been also like a kind of a connection between Celts and Gaels over time, yes. Or, well, kind of a mixture of sorts. But yeah, it's kind of interesting to learn about that. I just wanted to learn a bit more about the Picts and kind of share that with you guys because you'll find out that my friend Jules actually has a connection to the Picts as well. So, but let's continue reading here. So it seems like Vortigern had sought help to fight the Picts, and probably when he means the Scots, and really the Gaelic Scottish Highlanders. Yeah, that's what it sounds like to me. Uh, and I say that because, like, for me, when I think about Highlanders, I mean, of course, some people might think about the Picts, but I think about like those who had also had come from Ireland, like Clan Donahane. They were Scottish Gaelic Highlanders, but they had come from their ancestors had come from Donegal, from northwestern Ireland. But let me continue reading this. The Saxon mercenaries led by Hengist and Horsa arrived on the scene. When they were not paid, they began to invade the entire island, especially with flooding and coastal changes washing away their homeland, forcing mass migrations. The southern coast kingdoms of Essex, Wessex, and Sussex were settled by the Saxons. The Angles settled the eastern coast and the Midlands, including the kingdom of Anglia and Mercia. Okay, so if you look at this map, seems like the Saxons populated kind of southeastern England, a bit of south central England, while the Angles were more so to the north here. It was bordering part of Wales. Wales would be here. And then kind of going into a little bit of southern Scotland. Yeah, northern England and yeah. Uh, the Jutes settled Kent and the Isle of Wight. Now Kent is where? Okay, so Kent would be okay, southeastern England. Okay. Yeah, I'm not the biggest I don't have the biggest knowledge base, especially when it comes to kind of England and even in Scotland, of course for the Picts I had to kind of re-educate myself on that because I know about the Highlanders, but the Picts were still something I kind of had to re-educate myself. Like I know that like Alba, like the Gaelic word for Alba, also sounds like Albanian, from Albania. But of course, it seems like From the looks of it, there were more than one group of people who had lived in Scotland, even during the times of the Gaels, when the Gaels had first arrived, which is interesting to learn about indeed. Uh, okay, so let's continue here. All these Germanic tribes were pagans worshipping Twi, Woden, and Thunor. Okay, so kind of a connection to northern Germany, southern Denmark. Okay. Very much like their Viking neighbors with Tyr, Odin, and Thor. Yes. Ultimately, King Athelbert of Kent converted to Christianity and became the overlord of Britain. Raedwald of Anglia later took over and continued to spread Christianity over Britain, which helped unite the Bretons with the Anglo-Saxon invaders. The Bretons being more so the indigenous people that were living there at the time, yes, and still do live there to this day. Okay, wow. Sorry if that took a little while. Uh, didn't mean for it to take that long, but I like being thorough when it comes to talking about these things. So that's why I like to share, to that extent. Okay, so the next group we have here are the Franks. And actually, I think part of my ancestry, I think, was connected to the Franks as well. So there's a little bit of an overlap here. Francia, also known as Kingdom of the Franks, was the largest post-Roman barbarian kingdom in Western Europe. It was the predecessor of the modern states of France and Germany. Francia was among the last surviving Germanic kingdoms from the migration period era before its partition in 843. The core Frankish territories inside the former Western Roman Empire were close to the Rhine and Maas rivers in the north. After a period where small kingdoms interacted with the remaining Gallo-Roman institutions to their south, a single kingdom uniting them was found by Clovis I, who was crowned king of the Franks in 496. Geography of the Frankish realms varied over time, but a basic split between eastern and western domains persisted. The west-eastern kingdom Austrasia? Austrasia. Okay, interesting. Centered on the Rhine and Meuse and expanded eastwards into Central Europe. The Western Kingdom Nestria was founded in northern Roman Gaul. In Germany, there are prominent places named after the Franks, such as the reign of Franconia in Frankfurt, which would be in southwestern Germany, I think, and Frankenstein Castle. I want to make sure I get this right. Frankfurt to Cleves distance. Yes, yeah, it would be more so not just only southwestern, but probably south central Germany. Yes. Uh, and as you can see, the populations Jewel is most connected to is Anglo-Saxon plus Frank. So kind of a mixture of not only the Angles and the Saxons, but the Franks as well. The next group is Celtic Parisy. Parisy. Sounds like almost like Paris, but just you add an I to the end. And what do you know? They lived in that area. The Celtic Parisy were a powerful tribe located in East Yorkshire and considered by many historians to be related to the Parisy tribe of Gaul due to shared customs. This includes large cemeteries, including chariot burials and sword burials. They were a distinctive group of people who farmed the chalk hills of the Yorkshire wolds. They wore British-style ornaments and crafted British-style pottery, but kept separate from their large, powerful neighbors such as the Brigantians. Their graves were divided by social class, with some warriors' graves containing elaborate swords crafted with raised inlays made of enamel, horn, antler, and whale ivory. Okay, so they would have lived in this area, northeastern France, and it would have also have lived in Yorkshire. I actually have a friend who lives in Yorkshire, and was actually very kind to me. And I also had met another person who also was from Yorkshire as well. And yeah, so that's kind of interesting to learn about. Celtic Cunta Asia. As Julius Caesar first encountered the Cunta Asia in 54 before Common Era. He mentioned they were by far the most civilized tribe in Britain. and shared similar customs with the Gauls. Their former capital, Duro Vernum Cantia Corum, became the modern city Canterbury. Cantad. That's what it sounds like to me to sing. Maybe it had to do something with singing, you know. Let me check. Meaning of the word Canterbury. Fortified town, bra, of the people, what a interesting. Sheet music. Yeah, because when I think of the word cantar, it sounds like, they were people that had sung. They were um, people who sing, you know. Kind of makes me think of the Welsh in a way, that they are very good singers. But it's interesting to learn about this. Okay, and then Celts. The ancient Celts were various population groups and tribes living in Midland Europe from the last, or mainland Europe from the late Bronze Age onwards. Tribes included the Gauls, Helvetii, Scordisci, which I had a connection to, Surdi, Baldi, and Iceni, among others. Wherever Celts settled, rather, they spoke related languages and maintained the same artistic traditions. Celtic warriors were known for long hair and imposing physique, yes. By serving as mercenaries for Carthage against Rome, the Celts gained a reputation for being fierce warriors and skilled horsemen who fielded chariots into battle. Makes sense? Celts used musical instruments called, oh, I know about it. Carn, Carnses. I know what they're talking about though. It's kind of like a battle horn, really, or it's kind of like a what was kind of sung before you would go into battle. Yeah, Karn. Yeah, Carnix. The word Carnix is derived from the Gaulish root Karn or Kern. Kernunals. There we go. There's Kernunals right here. And I actually connect a lot with Kernunals. So yeah, same root. It is cognate with the Welsh Carn. Yeah, bore enraged. Yeah. Okay, so there we go. So Julie, or Jewel rather, is connected to uh is connected to um well, there's a connection to Celtic, well, I don't just want to say Celtic paganism because I think even before the Celts, some of the Gaels or maybe some of the Aurelians also had a connection with Cernunnos as well. So it's kind of like a blend, really. But for all intents and purposes, since this is situated with the Celts for Jewel, we can at least, show that there is a connection to Cernunnos as well, which I feel connected to. So there you go. I know she always said that we might be related in in some ways, and she might be right, which is kind of cool. Um, Let me see here. So yeah, they were used to frighten the enemy before combat. Greek art depicts their distinctive long shields and long swords. Yes, and it was actually said, I think, that for the Celts, they had actually learned how to iron smelt from the Aurelians, actually. Because at the beginning, now this is when you go back to classical history, and most people don't know this, but the ancient Greeks, or well, they weren't per se ancient Greeks at the time. They probably a better word would be classical Greeks. The classical Greeks at the time, they had called the Aurelians, the Gaels, and the Celts as kind of kindred of each other. And it was said that the Aurelians had actually taught the Celts, or the Aurelians, the Gaels, the Goldelic, they had taught the Celts how to iron smelt. And I remember there is an article actually that I will pull up just to kind of share about this because, many people don't know as much about the Gaels or the Aurelians, especially the Aurelians, this is kind of something I think is important to share actually. So let's share it. So it says here, unable to explain the name, the Greeks or classical Greeks at the time invented an eponymous ancestor, eponymous, meaning epony. I don't know what I want to say. Eponymous, giving their name to something. Um, yes. Um, sounds very similar to epona. Giving name. Yes, giving name. According to the one version of the myth, he was the son of Cadmus and Hermina. According to the other, he was the son of uh, Polyphemus and Galati, and had two brothers. Their names were Celtus and Gallus. Yeah, so the Greeks considered Celts and Gaels, well, Celts and Gauls in this case, as brothers of Aurelians. Not surprisingly, Aurelians also wore torques, rode horses, and belonged to the Hallstatt culture, the cradle of the Celts. Greeks had to notice the similarities, and hence the myth was born. This is the reason that in the past decades, some scholars saw the northern Lusitanian culture as the Aurelian homeland. Lusitanian culture, this goes back 1300 to 500 before Common Era, so we're talking about 2500 over 3000 years ago. It actually when I did my ancestry, I had a big connection, particularly with the Aurelians, which I believe were probably the Milesians who had come from Spain and were according to the Irish professor, some of he would call them the real history of the Irish, but they were some of the original people that had lived in those lands, aside from the Tuatha De Danann and the Firbolg. And you've read much about Irish folklore. So here, um, Aurelians, people of the lion, warriors of the lion. Aurelian also means free warriors as well. And they actually had fought during, the ancient Trojan War. For any of those who have read Homer's works, um, and some believe the Trojan War was kind of like a mythical war, but it was something that actually did happen, and I think they found samples that eventually kind of supported, yes, this did occur indeed, and it just shows like all the different groups that were kind of allied with the Trojans, one of them being the Pelagatians, the indigenous people of the Greek mainland, and also the Amazons, the tribe of women related to Scythians and Sarmatians, and Miletus as well, which, well, the Milesians probably came from Miletus, from western, what is now western Turkey, but it used to be known as Magna Graecia, or ancient Greece. It used to be part of ancient Greece. And also the Thracians, modern Bulgaria and Balkans. Um, yes. And I'm gonna check here about the iron smelting, because I know that a lot of people believe that the Iron Age, part of it was that it had come from the Celts actually, but the reality is that according to this conclusion found by this one author of sorts, the earliest use of iron in Europe actually came from the Aurelians, or really the Gaels, not the Celts. He draws his conclusion from the archaeological and linguistic data and ends with a statement that Celts learned to use this new metal from the Aurelians. And I know this might not, well, it actually does show up in Jules' ancestry because she has a small percentage of Aurelian, actually, like I do. Even though I have like Aurelian's kind of like a really big part of was a big part of my, I guess, ancient ancestors or Aurelians, Gaels. But what I had learned, as far as the Aurelians and Celts were concerned, was that when the Celts were coming into Europe around probably at least 2,500 years ago, they had to come into contact with the Aurelians and the Gaels, and over time they had they fought each other, and then they eventually kind of mixed with each other. That's usually how it goes, right? They meet each other, they fight, and then they somehow it just comes to the point where they eventually come together. Well, at least you try to. But yeah, no. So I wanted to share that tidbit. I know we're 30 minutes into the stream, so I'm going to try to see if I can kind of move this along. But I kind of like sharing this information because I can see the intersections between um, particularly the Celts and the Gaels and the Aurelians. And while my friend Jewel does have a big connection also to Anglo-Saxon and a connection to the Franks like I do, there's also a big connection to the Celts as well, as you can see here. Uh, which is actually, I'm glad I can share this with her and anyone else interested in or that is enjoying this video. Oh, I forgot to um, let me see if I can log on to my live studio, by the way, because I hadn't realized you know, just in case if anyone like, sharing comments or is just liking the video or things like that. I want to make sure I'm attentive to that as well. Uh, all right, there we go. Yeah, actually here, Jewel is actually related more to Franks and Celts, like if you go just by those one groups, than she is with Anglo-Saxon. But you can see here with Anglo-Saxon and Celt, it's very close. Like it's almost like it's like a .0.003 difference. So it's very close her connection. But Celt just it's it just beats it by like a small margin, but it is there. So okay, so let's look here. As you can see here with the matching samples she had, you can see Celtic Contesia is at the top of the list, but she also has a connection to the Gaels. And so what better way to talk about this than sharing it. So here, according to this description, the Gaels are a group native to Ireland, Scotland, and the Isle of Man. And I'll share more about that later because they are technically indigenous, but they had come from Spain long ago as well. So they themselves had also had migrated from somewhere else initially, thousands of years ago. But let's continue with this. Who are associated with the Gaelic language, which originated in Ireland. The Romans arrived to Britain, so that would have been the Romans arrived. Yeah, probably it was probably at least over 2,000 years ago. Yes. Yeah, let me make sure I got that right. And then Romans arrived to Britain. Okay, so yeah, 2,000 years ago. Yeah, makes sense. During the Middle Ages, Gaelic culture became dominant in parts of Scotland and the Isle of Man, with even some Gaelic settlements in Wales. Gaelic Ireland was made of several kingdoms, with a high king claiming lordship over them. Traditional Gaelic society is organized into clans with a king or chief elected through Tanistari. Tanistari, what's that mean? Custom among various Celtic tribes, notably in Scotland and Ireland. Okay, but more than just Celtic, it's also Gaelic. I think this is where they get confused, is where This is what the Irish professor Pat Flannery actually spoke about, and I'll link that in the description of the video. That the Celts and the Gaels, well, there may have been, at least according to the Greeks, there was classical Greeks, so they felt like they were connected. The reality is that the Gaels had really come to Ireland long before the Celts had settled there, and I think most people don't know that because again their lineage goes back to the Milesians, the sons of Mel, who had come from Spain long ago. We're talking about at least probably over 3,000 years ago at the bare minimum. Uh, but anyways, let's continue here. Traditional Gaelic society. Okay, yeah, I already spoke that. Pre-Christian Irish were pagans who worshiped the Tuatha De Danann, who are actually who were a group of at least in Irish folklore, they're seen as kind of not just deities, but more so the spiritual ancestors of Ireland, of Eire. Yeah, and they were there even before the Milesians had come. Um, though it is interesting when I learned about the Gaelic god Lu, and it's funny because my name is Lewis. That is my name, and Lu is very similar in his name. When I think about the Celtic, or not, he's not really Celtic per se. He's more so Gallic, Gallic, and he might have been an intersection between Gallic and Tuatha De Danann actually. But Lu, um, he was known as he had come from more than one race, and he also was one of many skills. This is who Lu was, and Lu, he gonna try to yeah. Here's a kind of a story of him fighting Balor of the One-Eyed. And some actually compare Lu to the story of David and Goliath, actually, where you have David, where he seems like a lot, a lot less, he wasn't as tall as Goliath as an example, or however way you want to say it, but he was able to win against Goliath through skill, and that's kind of like how Lu had defeated Balor, actually. And for those who know anything about Irish folklore, um, the two centerpieces of the folklore are the Fomorians and the Tuatha De Danann, which were essentially, two groups of people who had fought each other for many numbers of years, even centuries to an extent. Now, Lu is very interesting because I know right now when you're looking at images of Lu, you see a lot of images of a kind of more so like a blonde-haired, sometimes blue eyes, but also, there's different features of Lu as well, so having red hair and other kind of characteristics. But I want to kind of accurately describe him because Lu, he really is even like I listened to John O'Sullivan from the Irish Pagan School at times, and when he mentioned Lu was of many races, well, that is true because Lu well, he's known to have many skills. He was actually immortal, not immortal, but immortal, who, at first, the two of the Dawn at the time, um, they felt like they didn't need anyone else because as far as like, they had a blacksmith, they had a bard, they had, a lot of people that were already skilled in what the two of the Dawn had needed. But Lu was able to win their favor by saying, I may not just be a blacksmith. I may just not be a bard. I may not just be a cook. I may not just be a weaver, or any number of things. But he was really skilled in many areas actually, and in all the above. And that reminds me a lot of myself because really, it's like I tell people I'm not just one race, or I'm not just of one ethnicity. I'm from many different ethnicities. And so in that way, I feel like there's a parallel between Lou and I in that respect. And eventually, he was able to win the favor of the two of the Danann, It eventually became part of the I don't know if I want to use the word pantheon, but had at least been become almost like deified in Irish folklore. So, and he was also known to have many hair colors, not just blonde as an example, but also red, brown, and potentially even dark. And also had different eye colors. Sometimes that would shine simultaneously, like blue, green, potentially even brown, and other eye colors as well. So I figured I would share Lou. Uh, Here's another image. Lugos. Yeah, Lugos. There's actually a town or a village in Spain called Lugos, and I wouldn't be surprised if Lou actually, aside from being connected to the Danan, because he was also seen as immortal, he could have potentially have been an ancestor of one of the Milesians, potentially who had come from Spain, or there could have been that intersection between Iberia, Iberia being Spain and Portugal was named by the Romans Portugal because it meant port of the Gaels. This is why it was named Portugal. But there is probably that connection between the maybe the Milesians and the two of the Danan who might have come together of sorts. I'd have to learn more about that to be sure, but that is one connection there. Okay, so I know I went off a bit on the tangent, but let's wrap up the Gaels here. So yeah, the two of the Danan, which I had mentioned already, Irish, not just deities but also spiritual ancestors. That trace back, probably 4,000, 5,000 years ago, and believed in another world. There are four yearly festivals of Samhain. Samhain is essentially modern day Halloween, for those who don't know. Imbolc is, I think Imbolc is kind of, it's not quite like Easter or Ostara, which is where that derives from. Imbolc would be February 1st. So it's actually I'm actually glad I can share this with you guys because again it kind of coincides with oh well, not just Irish but also not just Celtic but also kind of a Gaelic intersection here. Uh so yeah, it was a celebration to take form of a festival in honor of the pagan goddess Bridget. Oh, and let me share a image of Bridget. Let me finish the rest of this first. She was invoked in fertility, blessings, and oversaw poetry, crafts, and prophecy. Bridget was worshipped by the Félid, a class of poets and historians among the Celts of ancient Ireland and Britain. Yeah, well, they say Celts, but yeah, Celts, and don't forget about the Gaels now. But yes, no, this is Bridget. A lot of times is pictured as a woman with dark well, I was gonna say dark red hair, but yes, she was oftentimes pictured of one with red hair actually, and she was actually also known to be the goddess of the hearth. Or kind of the fire that had burned in during winter to keep those in the Isles warm during those times of year. Yes. And so uh, this is Bridget, and you can see here she's kind of sometimes has images of kind of being like a warrior mother, kind of protecting her child as well. So a lot of there's a lot of kind of interesting overlap that I'm seeing indeed, which is kind of cool, from Jules' ancestry. Okay, so let me look here. Yeah, Beltane. Beltane is actually the opposite of Halloween or Samhain. It's actually I was actually born on May 15th, so Beltane or Bealtaine. Bealtaine is another way to say it. Bealtaine is It's funny because Bieltana is almost like how you would pronounce it in Spanish, really. Yes, Bieltana. Um, it's kind of like like where like a lot of people see Halloween or Samhain as, where the world of the living and the dead, the veils is the most thinnest. Bieltana is a little bit different in the sense that it is a time of year where the earth is most connected to the Fey realm. And for those that don't know, the Fey realm is another way to describe the other world in Irish folklore. Or I don't even just want to say Irish because I want to really say Gaelic folklore. That's a better way to say it. Because again, not every Irish person is the same. You could have some Irish that have Gaelic ancestry, and others who may not feel as connected to it for whatever reason. But yeah, no, I want to say more so not just Irish, but also really Gaelic or Gael. Yes, that might be a better way to describe it. Yes. Uh, wow, this is really interesting. Like, now Jewel can know she's not just white toast, not just white American, not just Anglo-Saxon, but she is really a mixture of different people that have come together, including well, the Gaels, which is actually really cool. And then Lunasa, or well, Lunasa is really how you would say it. Some people say Lunasa, but Lunasa, yeah, which was named after Lu. Lu. Yeah, it's kind of funny how that works. And Lunasa is actually essentially, um, well, it's also like in some ways, I believe it was kind of a fire festival of sorts, but it's also a way to give thanks to the spirits and deities for the beginning of the harvest season, which, yeah, makes sense because Lunasa would be August 1st. Yeah, and that's eventually where, yeah, that would be like the beginning of when kind of the fruits of one's labor would be harvested. Yes, that's definitely makes sense. Okay, so in the 12th century, Anglo-Normans conquered much of Ireland and even Normanized parts of Scotland. Okay, so as far as the Normans are concerned, I know a lot of people, especially those who are, um, I don't want to call them Anglo Anglophiles or whatever, um, because I think even that is a bit distorted. But the Normans really, when they had come to Ireland, uh, you know, probably shortly after they had come to England, relatively shortly after. According to an Irish professor, and I'll actually also link a video about the Normans as well, so you guys can learn about them. The Normans, they were a mixture of, from what I gather, Norwegian Vikings and Franks who had mixed with each other. And when they had gone to Ireland, they actually respected some of the pagan beliefs of the Irish who lived there at the time, or really, I don't just want to say Irish, they were really Gaels, and maybe some Celts as well. And they actually eventually intermarried with them, and they kind of they became part of the family, so to speak, which is usually how it works. Unfortunately, during the 1600s, I think during the reign of the House of Tudor, I guess what's this guy's name? I want to make sure I get his name right. Uh, was it the House of Tudor? Beginning of Ulster, because there was this one guy. Yeah, the plantation of Ulster took place between 1609 and 1690 when the lands of the O'Neills, the O'Donnells, and any of their friends were taken and granted to Scottish and English settlers. So, okay, so part of this history of Ireland is something that's it's kind of close to my heart in terms of also bringing healing because I'm actually connected to the O'Donnells, and probably the O'Neills as well, because through the ancestry I have connected to Scotland and Ireland, I am connected to the really to the people from Donegal, to the descendants of the Milesians. And actually, Red Hugh O'Donnell, he was actually a prominent O'Donnell, who had gone to the King of Spain in the 1600s, and he had asked the King of Spain to essentially he wanted to ask for help. And one of the ways he did it at first is that he brought a book with him. And as the Irish professor Pat Flannery would say, he said it's as if a Jew had brought the book of Abraham with him. That man had a consciousness of who he was. And so when he went to the Spanish throne room, and at the time the Spanish king was Philip III actually, he went to the Spanish king and he told him that essentially that his ancestors had left Spain, left Iberia 1,000, 2,000 years ago, and maybe even longer potentially. And he told the Spanish king, "Listen, we need help right now because we're getting invaded by people from up north, and we need your help in protecting our lands, protecting our people, and we are related to you and yours, going back 1,000, 2,000, maybe even longer before that." And so it's kind of interesting because when I hear the term Ireland only for the Irish, they don't understand that there are some Irish clans, and well, I don't want to just say Irish, really Gaelic, because again, not every Irish person is the same. So the O'Donnells and the O'Neills, they knew who their ancestors really were, where they had really come from. Where they might have been labeled as the real Irish by Nixon, and he said it in more so in a derogatory term. But the reality is these were the indigenous people of Ireland. I mean, aside from the Tuatha De Danann and the Fionn, but as I mentioned with Lu, like the Gaelic god Lu, or well, I don't want to say Gaelic really. You could say Gaelic, and you could also say Tuatha De Danann as well. It was really a blend at the time. A blend is how I see it. But it really goes back to that lineage of. I also think that when you read about the Milesians, um, it also talks about that there was a son named Lu. Actually, that sounds very similar to Lu. The name the one of the two of the Don and his name was Lu. And I'm gonna see if I can pop that open because yeah, Laura Gabala Aaron. Okay. So let me see if I can pop this up. Yeah, so Lu, yeah, two of the Donnan. Again, the Irish history or the history of the Gaels and the two of the Donnan, they go way, 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 way back into history. And I'm gonna see if I can pop this open because I think it's important to actually share. I think this is a perfect time with my friend Jewel having a connection to the Gaels. I think she was also related to not necessarily O'Neill's, but MacNeil, which there could be a connection there with the Gaels. Let me check here. Yeah, this is actually interesting to share this. I feel like I'm kind of like Pat Flannery right now, kind of sharing his scale, sharing well I'm sharing my friend Jules' kind of ancestry, but through the ancestry, it's also a way to share the story. Okay, so where was it here? Um, I remember finding this here somewhere. The Milesians, the sons of Meal, they represent the Irish people, and the Milesians are Gaels who sailed to Ireland from Iberia after spending hundreds of years traveling to the earth. When they land in Ireland, they contend with the two of the Donnan who represent the Irish pantheon of gods. Yes, which is what I mentioned. But I remember Lou, or there was someone named Lou that was mentioned here. And it would make sense because Lugos is a town in a village in Spain. Brigantia refers to Caruna. That would be in modern day Galicia. Yes. So, um, yeah. So they would have come from, they would have left Galicia. Yes. They would have left Galicia. I'll actually share one more link where there's a video between the Irish going to Galicia and actually spending time with those with the Galicians actually. And it's such a beautiful video, kind of like it really brings me home. It really does. And I'll share an additional video between a collaboration between the Galicians in Spain and the Irish from Ireland. It really is just truly like a homecoming, really. It is like coming home. Um, yeah, so I think Lou was mentioned. Ethological cycle. Yeah, I'll have to find it, but I remember there was something about there was a son named like it sounded very similar to Lou. That's why I'm saying that when they talk about the two of the Donna and they talk about Lou, I almost feel like Lou was really like an intersection between the Milesians who had come to Ireland and the two of the Donnan. Because again, he wasn't seen initially as he was seen as immortal by he was seen as immortal by the two of the Donnan that were there, and maybe again there is this intersection because again Lu was from more than one race. So, and again there is a town in Spain called a village called Lugos, and so there is probably that connection that maybe that is where Lu was connected. That's probably there was a connection there. Yes. All right, so I know talked a lot about Lou, and I don't want to. I know this video is not about Lou. This video is about Jewel, and but Lou is he is a prominent Irish, or not just Irish, but really Gaelic um, deity, um, or I don't just want to say deity, really spiritual ancestor in Irish folklore. Dating back to the two of the Donnan as well, and the Milesians and all that fun stuff. Okay, so now with that being wrapped up, let's continue here. However, Gaelic culture remained especially strong in the west of Ireland and the Scottish Highlands. Well, what do you know? You know, it's funny because, well, it's not funny, but there was a time where the Irish were some of the Irish were labeled as Black Irish, especially Irish that looked more so Mediterranean or had darker features. And there was this kind of this story, because to me it really is just a story of they had come from a shipwreck from the Spanish Armada. But the reality is that the Gaels again they had come from Spain. They had come from really that the Mediterranean, the Balkans, that area. Um, and so yes, it is really. I just I don't want to say I get goosebumps by sharing this, but it's just kind of nice where it's like it's nice to see the intersection there with the Gaels indeed. Yes. Furthermore, the rich Irish mythology was preserved and recorded by medieval Irish monasteries. Yes. Okay, so I know we spent a lot of time on the Gaels, and I know my friend Jewel, she's not just Gael, she's many other things. Yeah, I just get really excited about sharing these things. It really is something that I'm really, passionate about. So, but yes, let me continue sharing here. Okay, so. The next group is okay, so there's the Celts that Julie's related to, or Jewel, yes. Julie is just another name for my friend Jewel. So you sometimes hear me say that. That's just another name. But but her in this video, Jewel I think is the good way to go about it. So the ancient Celts. Okay, so I already talked about the Celts here. Yes. Okay. So, and then we mentioned the Saxons, and okay, next group, because this didn't show up in the original sample. Celtic Brigantes. Okay. Oh, I think we talked about this already, like with Bridget as well a little bit. But we can revisit this. Traditionally, the Brigantes were the largest Celtic tribe in Britain. The name stems from the same Proto-Celtic root as the goddess Brigantia, meaning elevated or prestige. Perhaps they saw themselves as Highlanders living in elevated fortifications along the Pyrenees. During the Roman conquest of Britain, Queen Cartamandia led the Brigantes and formed a large tribal agglomeration. Let me give me a second. Agglomeration. Yeah, conglomerate. Yeah, mass or collection of things. So it's like a coalition of tribes that come together. Yes. Okay. Where's okay? Agglomeration that was loyal to Rome. Okay. She became incredibly wealthy and influential across Britain after helping Emperor Claudius defeat the Welsh tribes. Oh boy, yeah. I'm sure some of the Welsh aren't too happy about that. No, I don't want Jewel to feel like bad. She's like, oh no, like I can't believe some of my ancestors did that. But no, things happen, we just try to do what we can to do better. So she said, so it's because again, you got to remember, not all the tribes got along, and that's just how it was back then. But over time, some of the tribes, or at least some of us, did try to get along. Like for example, like even the O'Donnells and the O'Neills fought each other, but then they eventually came together. So it says here her husband Venutius divorced and led a divorce, or not led a divorce, led a series of revolts against her and Roman rule. Okay, so he divorced her and then led a revolt against her. Yeah. That's yeah, that's kind of interesting how that works. Yeah. Um, yeah, so eventually Cartamindia appealed for troops from the Romans who only could offer auxiliaries. They successfully evacuated her, leaving Venutius in control of a kingdom at war with Rome. It took decades for the Romans to subjugate the Brigantes. It is thought Hadrian's Wall was built to prevent them from joining with the Scottish tribes on the other side. And Hadrian's Wall, I've heard of that, is actually in this is in Can check here. So Hadrian's Wall was built 122. It's kind of like almost like a divider between northern England and Scotland, pretty much. Yeah. You have two walls actually. You have Hadrian's Wall and you have Antonian Wall. You have two of them. Yeah, this is what it would have looked like. The wall lies entirely within England and has never formed the Anglo-Scottish border, though it is sometimes loosely or colloquially described as being such. There you go. Okay, so aside from that, okay, yeah, so what was the other one? Yeah, Jewel has a lot of connection to a lot of different Celtic tribes or a lot of different Celtic people, which is really cool. The Dabuni were a Celtic tribe based in central Britain, whose capital was located in Cirencester, the largest town in the Cotswolds. Oh, actually, I've been watching an anime that actually was based on think a village in England called Cotswolds, which actually it looks really cool. Like it's very, I guess, like traditional maybe is the best way to say it. And yeah, it's very beautiful. It's actually yeah, it's a little bit closer to Wales, a little bit. Yeah, beautiful little kind of village, really. It's really kind of a lot of good energy to it. But let's see here. They were primarily farmers and craftsmen living in small villages and fertile valleys. Roman historian Dio Cassius first mentions them by name, and they were described as a non-warlike tribe who easily capitulated to the Romans and easily adopted a Romano-British lifestyle. Their goddess was named Kuda, associated with the Cotswold Hills and its rivers and springs. They were also known to be one of the local tribes who issued coins before the Roman arrival. Yeah, I think I might actually share this video with my friend Ben because he might also be interested in this as well, kind of seeing some of the interactions of the Romans and also not only with the Gaels but also the Celts who were also living there too. And also my friend Ben actually uh, his mother actually migrated from Wales to the Americas, so uh, he might find some of this interesting indeed. Um, So the Bretons were, it says here ancient Celts migrated to Britain from mainland Europe starting around 1300 before Common Era. So I think at that time though they wouldn't have been called Celts though. They would have been more, they would have actually been maybe closer to the Gaels actually at that point. Yeah. But again, it might be good for my Welsh American friend Ben to give more input on that. But yeah, no, because the Celts hadn't arrived into Europe until he, well, let me see here. 1000 before Common Era, but I think that this was probably much later because the Iron Age, yeah, Celts first arrived in Ireland about 500 before Common Era. Okay, that's at least Ireland. In this case, Wales. When did they arrive to Wales? Okay, so maybe they arrived to Wales before Ireland potentially. Okay, so oh, that's interesting to learn about. Um, the Celts had arrived in Britain and Ireland by 400 before Common Era. It's kind of like back and forth of when they arrived. To me, I don't think they would have been there 3,000 years ago. I think it would have been 2,500. But again, this isn't the case of Wales. But all right, but let's continue. The ancient Greek historian Paethius first explored these islands in 330 to 320 before Common Era and named them the Brittonic Isles and the people living there, Britannia, which translated to Bretons. The other two major Celtic groups were the Gauls in France and the Gaels in Ireland. Yeah, Seagulls, Gaels. Well, there is a connection there in some ways, but let's continue. They lived within tribes without a central government and brought iron work to the British Isles. Each tribe lives in hill forts surrounded by ditches and banks encircling defensible hilltops. The Bretons were excellent warriors who liked to cover themselves in blue paint and tattoos to give a frightening look as they fought naked. All right, there you go. They routinely cut off the heads of their enemies and battle and display them as trophies. Oh yeah, that's what I told my friend Jewel about how there were certain Roman legionnaires who described this, especially the women of Gaul or some of the Celts that they had fought as those who could give 100 Roman soldiers, a run for their money. And I kind of display this as a woman who would charge at a soldier, chop his head off and probably drink the blood out of his skull. And while it doesn't say this here, it does say at least cut off the heads of their enemies and display them as trophies. So there is something there. Yeah, or my friend Jewel would probably say, "I'm gonna skin you" or something. Yeah, there might be a connection there. So it says here, furthermore, the Bretons were excellent farmers who knew how to cultivate the rich valley and lowland soils. Their insular Celts resisted the Romans for decades, but eventually were defeated. The Romans controlled Britannia until 410 AD, or after Common Era, after which the Anglo-Saxons arrived. By the end of the first millennium, they had conquered most of Britannic territory, and the language and culture of the native Bretons was largely extinguished. Okay, so yeah, we already mentioned that. Franks, we mentioned that. Okay, so the rest of this is my friend Jewel has a connection to the Quadi, which I think had a slight connection to, I think. The Quadi were a Germanic tribe who lived in modern Moravia, Slovakia, and Austria during their first encounters with the Roman Empire. They were a Suebian tribe related to the Macromani and Longobards who moved into the region previously inhabited by the Celtic Bui. They had a warlike spirit governed by kings of their own noble stock. Oh, there's that word stock right there. Yeah. Alrighty. For centuries, they fought wars with the Romans. Emperor Valentinius spent most of his reign defending the Danube frontier against hordes of Quadi Goths and Sarmatians, united under Quadi king Gabinus. The eventual fate of the Quadi is not so clear. It is thought some migrated with the Vandals to northern Portugal. Others settled in Pannonia, while modern Bavaria still shares linguistic ties to the ancient Quadi homeland. Bavaria would be southeastern Germany. Oh, here's another here's another Celtic tribe. Here we go. Um, a lot of different Celts, like Celtic people, really. The Coril Tavi were largely agricultural Celtic people based in the East Midlands of England. They were a federation of self-governing tribal groups who began producing inscribed coins with 2 to 3 names on them at a time, suggesting multiple rulers. Later coins featured the High King of the region along with 3 sub-kings. It is thought they offered little resistance to Roman rule. The capital of Raetia, modern uh, Leicester, I think, was captured by the Romans for Common Era, or and held a Roman garrison. They bordered the Byzantines to the north. The okay, so the Byzantines were north of them. The Dobini and Katuvelini to the south, and the Iceni to the east. The villages consisted of round huts surrounded by banks and ditches. The land had large deposits of iron, stone, and significant salt production produced from seawater. All right. Oh, here's the Belgie. Oh, well, there's also Icelandic Viking. I think she'll be interested in that one too. But wait. Okay, no, so the Vikings would be next. Viking Icelandic. Okay. Yeah. I can hear her say, "Yay, Vikings." Or I don't know, like the first Norseman to rest his feet on Icelandic soil was Nador, who named the land of fire and ice Schneeland, I think it's Schneeland, land of snow. The second Norseman to arrive was Floki Vilgerd Darson, who took 3 ravens to help him find his way. Floki sent his ravens free near the Faroe Islands. The first raven flew to the Faroes, the second flew up in the air and returned to the sky to the ship. The third flew in front of the ship and followed its direction to Iceland. A harsh winter caused all of Floki's cattle to die, after which he cursed the cold country and named it Ice. Oh, wow. That's why it's named Iceland. Okay, I didn't know that. Then the next brave Viking to reach the icy land was Ingolfur Arnarsson, who had instigated a blood feud. Blood feud means like kind of tribal like warfare between different families. Yeah, blood feud in his homeland, Norway. The sword of Sweatle, not Sweatle, settle wherever he drifted ashore. Archaeogenic studies have shown these Vikings who colonized Iceland brought thousands of slave women from Ireland and Scotland to put down roots. Roughly half of the Vikings. Not all of them were a perfect group, but again, as Bjorn says, they try to do better in some ways, which I'm glad about. But it says here roughly half of the genetic material of early settlers was an even Norse Gaelic mix. Even today, Icelanders draw 70% of their genes from the Norse and 30% from these original Gaelic sources. And probably when it means Gaelic, it also means Celtic as well. Because when I think about Gaelic, I think about the Milesians, the sons of Neil. But anyways, there is that connection there. Here's the Belgie. I know my dad always he talks about Belgium, 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 and I think I was connected maybe to the Belgian in a way as well. The ethnic name Belgi comes from the Proto-Celtic word Belgi, which means the people who swell with anger or battle fury. This is what I also thought about, what the Romans thought about some of the tribes as well, especially battle fury. These Celtic people lived north of the Gauls and Aquitani and differed by language, customs, and laws. Caesar considered them to be the bravest of the Gallic populations as they were furthest removed from the refinement and civilization of Rome, as well as constantly warring with the Germanic tribes to the east. I remember Jules saying, "Yeah, I come from a whole bunch of Hellraisers." Yeah, she's not wrong, but anyways, let's continue. Caesar himself suffered his greatest defeat at the hands of the Belgi, but finally subdued them in 57 before Common Era. Belgi tribes also settled in Britain and populating many parts of the lowlands with the key centers in Colchester, St. Albans, and Silchester. These settlers introduced the heavy plow to the region, which greatly expanded the usable farmland. Well, there you go. Okay, so another tribe here is Unili. Unili. Oh, that actually, this photo here reminds me of one of Jules' ancestors that I believe it was her mum that she showed me a picture of. So it says here the Unili were a Gallic tribe dwelling in the Cotentin Peninsula in modern Normandy during the Iron Age and Roman period. Caesar first mentions them alongside other maritime states in the region such as the Venati, Alci, Me, and Curiosity. Romans dispatched Quintus Tityrus Sabinus with 3 legions to subjugate the Onuli, who were led by Viridovix, who headed a coalition of nearby Gallic tribes. Despite the huge size of this army, the Roman general entrenched himself in his camp and pretended to be afraid, which led the Galli to attack the Roman camp, which had been keenly established on a sloping ascent along 2 kilometers long. Exhausted by the uphill climb, they were surprise attacked and slaughtered by Roman cavalry. Despite capitulation to Caesar in 57 before Common Era, the Unduli rebelled and sent troops to help the Gallic coalition against Rome during the famous Battle of Elcia, where Vercingetorix faced. Okay, I know Vercingetorix, yes. Faced off against his nameless Gaius Julius Caesar, yes. There's actually a film about him that yeah, that was really good actually. So that's really cool actually to learn about that. So the next tribe is Danish. Well, next group rather is Danish Vikings. So Danish Vikings. Let me see if I can pull this up. Angul and Danube were sons of the all-seeing god Hemdall. Angul became father of the Angles, conquered the Frisian and the Roman province of Britannia. Danube would become, or Danube would become the father of the Danny and Scandia, which is part of Scandinavia. Soon everyone would know this as the land of the Danes or Denmark, named after its marshland bordered with the Franks. Masters of the sea, they would raid small villages on the Frankish coast to start with, but as money and slaves footwalled in, they became more ambitious. Danish Vikings eventually became conquerors and settled the Dane law in Britain. This is where the laws of the Danes held sway and dominated those of the Anglo-Saxons. Okay, I didn't know that. The 10th century, the kingdom of Denmark coalesced in Jutland under King Grom the Old. His son Harald the Bluetooth conquered Norway, unified Denmark, and Christianized the Danes. These accomplishments are inscribed in runic on a huge gravestone at Jelling. His son Swern Forkbeard raided England annually and was accepted as king of that country. His son Snut the Great reconquered Norway and forged an Anglo-Danish kingdom that lasted until his death in 1035. Okay, so there you go on that. Okay, and then there's the Cheruski. So this one she might like the Cheruski. So I actually was matched with the Cheruski when I did a sample for myself as well. Um, I know a lot of these videos or a lot of these segments talk about the Romans conquering all the different. Well, not. I don't just want to say the Romans, really. Some of the imperial legions, rather. That's probably a more proper term, because I don't think all Romans agreed with everything going on. But well, that's usually how it goes. But anyways, the Cherusci inhabited parts of the plains and forests of northwestern Germany and the area of the Weser River in present-day Hanover. Famous chieftain Arminius, also known as Hermann Siegfried, led the Germanic tribes to victory at the Battle of the Teutoburg Forest in 9 Common Era, destroying three entire Roman legions under command of Publius Quintilius Varus, in which is considered one of Rome's greatest defeats. This prevented Romanization of Germanic people east of the Rhine and was a turning point in history. Germanic people would fight for Rome for 700 years. Arminius or Hermann Siegfried was taken by the Romans as a child, taught Latin, and Romanized. During his Roman upbringing, a member of the equity class. An equity class was, so I can learn myself, um, constituted the second of the property-based classes of ancient Rome, ranking below the centurial class. A member of the equestrian order. Equestrian meaning horses. Okay. Member of the equestrian order, which was known as Equus. I see. Makes sense. Uh, Equitite. Mounted military unit cavalry. Okay, that makes sense. Yeah. He was not able to turn a blind eye to the suffering of his people. Eventually, the Germanic Chatti tribe conquered the Cherusci in 88 Common Era. The Cherusci began to disappear from the records as they were absorbed into later Germanic populations such as the Saxons, Thuringians, Franks, Bavarians, and Alemanni. Okay, so there's the Cherusci there. Was that it? Oh, no, there's one more. There's one more Celtic group. Celtic Doro Triges. Yeah, I probably could get better pronouncing some of these names, but doing the best that I can. Let me look. See if it loads. Yeah, we're actually making decent timing here, but let's see here. The Celtic Doro Triges tribes settled in the area known as Dorset in southwest England. The name translates to fort dwellers, of which they had many fortified hill forts, including one in Ham Hill and Maiden Castle. They issued their own coinage before the Roman conquest, which featured horses and geometric patterns. All right, we finished that part, which I'm glad about. Well, I'm glad in the sense that I was able to kind of wrap that all up for my friend Jewel. Uh, okay, so this is probably the part she might be interested in. Okay, so here we have a 90% 8 match with post-Viking age, Hedeby, Schwischleg, Rothos, Mark, Southern Jutland. So this would have been connected to Bretons, Celts, Gaels, Bretons, and this would have been Jutland, okay. Well, at least at the time it says. The time. Interesting. I find this interesting because I know Jewel and I were talking about Sweden in particular, and she talked about how we talked about how over time Sweden had kind of been had a close relationship with the Russians and how well there was kind of like a connection between both of the quote unquote kingdoms and how over time um, the Russians or R1A had more of an started getting more of an influence in that part of Europe because if you look at a map here, I'm going to pull up this map. This is kind of modern age Europe. So you notice how R1B is mainly in most of Western Europe, like Scotland, Ireland, Wales, even England, France, Spain, Portugal, Belgium, the Netherlands. But notice as you start going, also parts of Italy and Switzerland. But notice as you go further east, especially northeast, you look at Germany, and then it's kind of I think Germany actually, Western Germany is more R1B, while Eastern Germany is more R1A, or at least, the more so modern Germany. And then you look at Denmark, Norway, and Sweden, which while Denmark has a good amount of R1B, um, you start to notice Norway and Sweden have a lot of R1A. And also they have Nordic ancestry as well. But, because notice here, I1, Germanic, Nordic. Um, I guess in this case, I2B. Well, I2A is South Slavic and I2B is Saxon. Okay, that's interesting. Sardinian. And then R1B says here can be a mixture of Celtic, Basque, Italic, Frisian, and says Saxon there too. Yeah. And R1A would be Slavic, Kurgan, or it also says Aryan. But yeah, notice how like at least modern day Norway and Sweden have a good chunk of R1A, and also Poland, Belarus, Ukraine, Russia, especially. Actually, I think Poland has probably like the highest percentage. But yeah, no, I figured it was kind of neat to share that. Just as a little bit of tidbit of history. At least with this sample, it would have been connected to R1B, so probably, uh, sorry. Even after the post-Viking Age, I guess, in southern Jutland, there were tribes that were also connected to Celts. Or I guess I have to remember, Viking is actually a verb and not just a noun, and I have to remember that. Yes, I think that's what even Bjorn said. Like we're gonna go Viking, and it doesn't necessarily mean that everyone who went Viking was of the Norse ethnic group. I guess that's one thing I have to remember. Um, yeah. Yeah, to me, the Norse people, the best way I can describe it is I kind of go back to the sons of Odin, and I guess also Freya as well, or kind of like a mixture of the Aesir that this would date back at least 1500 years ago. So even before the sample was taken, and then the Vanu would have been even before that. Or when I think about Vanu, I think about Vanir or Vamos a Venir as well. Um, in this case, it says House Cecil, first Earl of Exeter. Oh, here. So it tells you that these samples were found Viking Age, Gotland, Sweden, Suffolk, Viking, Oxford, Vernham, Sweden, Merovingian, Noble, Oakington, England, Bavaria, Germany, Yorkshire. Um, Yeah, and then you can see how uh, these samples would match to southwest England, southeast English, even modern day Irish, West Scottish, or Accordion, South Dutch, North Dutch, and Danish. Danish, yeah. Um, and so here we have, oh boy, yeah, I don't, I already told you about this one. Yeah, it's like don't let it get to your head now. But here it says high status female noble, more Virginian, late Avar period, Hungary. This is a mixture of Celts and Saxon, Anglo-Saxons, Gaels, Danish Vikings. Um, uh, it's kind of a similar sample. North Germany, Jutland, Yorkshire. Okay. Let me see. So here it says Celts, Gaels. Like I feel like a lot of these samples kind of like run into each other where they're very similar, actually. Well, this would have been in Hungary, so here's Slovakia. A lot of England, which is probably no surprise to her. This would have been, at least in this time of England, 53 before Common Era. It was a mix of Gaels, Celts, yeah, Bretons. Okay, here's the Anglo-Saxon 99%. And this would have was a mixture of Celts, Anglo-Saxons, Bretons, Gaels, kind of a mixture of. Let me look. Oh, here's Copper Age, Czech. This would have been 4,300 years ago, and that this time it was, well, Celts, Gaels, more so Celts, but also, even back then there was that connection there. Southeast England, yeah, 4,300 years later. Oh, she's also connected to House of Lepe de Mold. That was what my dad had a connection to from his lineage. Clan Armstrong, okay, there it is. Clan of Deliapole, okay, there's another connection. Clan Crawford, Clan Cheyenne, Clan Hunter, Clan Donahan, Clan Weir. Okay, so all these connections from this sample from 2,300 years ago, there is that overlap between, I guess it would have been her father's lineage and I guess my dad's lineage. Actually, it kind of coincides to an extent, which is kind of neat. Um, and she has a 95% match, which is cool. Uh, and what was this again? Was it? Yeah, Gaels and Celts. Okay. Yeah. Oh, Copper Age Frog. So this would have been a mixture of Celts and Belgique, Guadi. Let me see what else. French, South Dutch, Southwest English. Okay, there you go. Welsh, Irish, Catalonia. Oh, so some Spanish there. This is a 99% match. Or was it? Is it 99%? Yeah, it is. Yeah, a lot of these matches are really high. Like it's really like it's like a no-brainer, I guess. Bronze Age, Amesbury. So, Bratton, Gale, um, okay, Viking Age. I'm trying to think, where was Amesbury again? Yeah, let me see here. Yeah, let me check MS Berry. So, Europe. So this is the town in England. Oh, it's actually near Stonehenge. So there you go. Um, yeah, so Wiltshire, Southern England. Oh, there you go. So here we have Yorkshire, Yarnton, England, early Anglo-Saxon period. Um, Friesland, Netherlands. Bohemia, Merovingian grave. Okay, so that'd be connected to the Franks, all right? French, South Dutch, Bronze Age Scotland. Okay, so at that point it would have been Gaels, Celtic Conthesia. At that time it would have been more Breton and and Gaelic than Celtic, yes. Oh, aside from Celtic Conthesia, yes. That makes sense. Viking Gaelic mix Iceland. Let's see. Southwest English, southeast. McDougal. Oh, there we go. McDougal, um, MacDougal. Son of Dougal. This comes from Galway, southwestern Scotland. All right. Clan Home, Clan MacDonald. Oh, there we go. I actually had I think when I went to school, there was actually a professor or someone I knew that had the name MacDonald as a last name. High Kings of Ireland. Yeah, it makes sense. I can see some of that. Scotland and Ireland, yes. Uh, Saxon Grave, Bronze Age, Quedlinburg, Germany. Uh, Celtic Conthesia, Acromani. Um, oh, here's Iron Age, Chemin de Capoutes, Marne, France. Oh, Iron Age, Wiltshire, England. Gael, Celts. Okay. Viking, Hessel, Bjerg, Marken, Denmark. There's a connection. Celts, Franks, Visigoths. Oh yeah, so the Visigoths, they're also mentioned in Spain as well. But let me see if I can get the Visigoths visible here. No pun intended, by the way. Let me see if I can this to work. Hopefully it's not. It might be kind of overloaded right now. I can always refresh the page if I need to. Yeah. Yeah, it's okay. Yeah, we'll get back to that one. But yeah, no, I figured it'd be nice to share some of this. And sometimes my browser just gets overloaded with info. Let me check. Oh shoot, sorry. Let me go back to Jewel. This is going to mine by accident. Okay, so the Visigoths, let me mention this. The Visigoths emerged from early Germanic Gothic tribes, Gothic groups. It's said they might have come from southern Scandinavia, actually. Possibly the Thervingi, who had invaded the Roman Empire in 376 and had defeated the Romans at the Battle of Adrianople in 378. Relationships between the Romans and the Visigoths were variable, alternately warring with one another, making treaties when convenient. The Visigoths invaded Italy under Alaric I and sacked Rome in Alaric, yeah, in 410. After the Visigoths sacked Rome, they began settling down, first in southern Gaul and eventually in Hispania, which would have been Spain and Portugal, where they founded the Visigothic kingdom and maintained a presence from the 5th to the 8th century AD. In or around 589, the Visigoths under Recordred I converted from Arianism to Nicene Christianity, gradually adopting the culture of their Hispano-Roman subjects. Their legal code, the Visigothic Code, abolished their long-standing practice of applying different laws for Romans and Visigoths. Once legal distinctions were no longer made between Romans and Gothi, they became known as, collectively as Hispani. Well, there you go. So I'd have to see what's the belief of this. Arianism, Christian heresy not declare that Christ is created. Okay. Oh, it says here Arianism is a Christological doctrine that first attributed to Arius, a Christian presbyter who preached and studied in Alexandria, Egypt. Oh, there you go. There's a bit of that. Yeah, well, we do what we can to share the rainbow indeed. Okay, so other than that, there's Bronze Age, Bellbeaker, Hestevice check. Um, sounds here. Oh, connected to a number of different clans, actually. Iron Age, Bronze Age. Oh, this might be interesting. This is 3,500 years ago. So at that time it would have been Celtic, Parsi, Jantes, and Gaels. Interesting. Okay, so we're gonna do one more for this one. Bronze Age, Bohemia. Uh, Celtic, Gael. All right, so we're done with that for now. This just says what samples Jules is most prominently connected to by era. The Neolithic age would have been Czech, Prague, Germany. Early Bronze Age, Czech, Bronze Age, Scotland, Wiltshire, England, Bohemia. Late Bronze Age, Kent, England, Bohemia, Iron Age, England, Slovakia, England. Oxfordshire, England, Roman Age, England, Yorkshire, England, Germany, Bavaria, Dark Ages, Hungary, Anglo-Saxon, Medieval Ireland. Medieval Ireland, okay. Okay, so Celt, Frank, okay, that makes sense. Southwest English, okay. Roscommon, alright. Oh, Bishop Seat, okay, that makes sense. In the Netherlands, pick early. England, post-Viking Age, Jutland, Denmark, medieval Trondheim, Celts, Viking Danish, Celt, Breton. Okay, there you go. Oops, my bad. Hopefully my thing didn't blow up. Then outlier samples. Hannes Lübeck, Germany. Pick counts. No ancient American samples as of this time, but maybe eventually. All right. So ancient population, ancient relatives. So okay. So this is kind of neat. So this would be kind of like the matches Jewel would be most related to. So she has a 90% match. She gets a little golden medal here. This makes your relationship to this individual exceptional. So she was related to late Iron Age, Thornhelm, uh, Thornholm. I think it's Thornholm, Yorkshire, Britain. So that'd be northern England. Um, these would have been which groups? Gaels, Celts. Oh, there you go. So that time they were a mixture of Gaels and Celts. Yes. Uh, Kent, England. Did she get the gold medal for that? Not for this one, but oh, yeah. So Gael, Celtic, Canthesia, so Kent, England, right? All right. Yorkshire. A lot of connections to England, but also surprising. Well, at this time they wouldn't have been Saxons, so makes sense she would have a lot of connection to the Gaels and the Celts. Here, the Franks, okay. Celts, Squatty. There's the Lombards. Franks. Friesland. Celts, Saxon. Medieval Ireland, Roscommon. Celt, Frank, Anglo-Saxon, Norton on T's. So you can see these kind of overlap over time. 69%. Oh, relic, French, King Louis XVI. Oh, here's some of the Aurelian ancestry. There we go. Acanian, Scordisci, Pannonian, Aurelian. Okay, so yeah, and then I had mentioned the Aurelians already, so there was. Um, yeah, and this had to do with the French Revolution, which wasn't quite too pretty, but yeah, so let's see here. Um, Southwest England, Hallstatt Celts. Oh, Spanish. Oh, this would have been 775. Spanish Basque, French Basque, Southwest French, Aragon, Ireland, Copper Age. What says here? Yeah, but count. Well, it tells you the clans she's connected to. Clan Ross, English royalty, but I'd have to read more into that. There's a match there. Oh, and here's Cheddarman from 9,000 years ago. Excavated in 1903, Cheddarman is Britain's oldest human skeleton and are kept in the Natural History Museum in London. Analysis shows light eyes, green or blue, dark brown or black hair, and dark skin. Both his male and female haplogroups are common in Britain today and share the same Y-DNA group as the Louisburg Mesolithic hunter from Luxembourg. All right. The Rogi, the Rugi. The Rugi, Old Norse for raw eaters, were an Eastern Germanic tribe who migrated from southwest Norway to Pomeranian around 100 AD. Tacitus mentions them as adjacent to the Goths. Scandinavian origin. There you go. So here's the Viking match. All right, so that was actually pretty cool. And then you can see here, these are DNA segments of kind of samples that she shares most with. So definitely Celtic, Frank, Canticia, um, Parsi, Breton, Briganti, Anglo-Saxon, Dubuni, Gael, Balari, and Ostrogoth. And I think Balari, actually, I had mentioned to her, is actually a group from Sardinia, I think. Um, yeah, the Balearic Islands, Western Mediterranean, near the eastern coast of the Iberian Peninsula. So there you go. Point. Fierce mountain tribe of interior Sardinia. There you go. And then the Ostrogoths, I think, it's like a really small percentage. But yeah, referred to more generally as Goths, yeah. Eastern Goths lived in the area near the Black Sea, modern-day Romania, Ukraine, and Russia. Like the Goths elsewhere, the Ostrogoths made frequent incursions into Roman territory until their own territories were invaded by Huns from further east. Then it just kind of gives you like, kind of like a chromosome heat map, chromosome contributions. So you can see all the different things kind of coming together. Yeah, you definitely see like a lot for Canthesia, Parsy, Celt, Gael, Frank. You see some for Anglo-Saxon, Breton, Aurelian, a little bit there, yeah. Polari, Ostrogoth, and Celtic Danube. And it just kind of tells you like where the genetic distance is like this strongest. Yeah, strong match for some of them. 94%, 82. Danish, Gallic, Viking, Iceland. See how Breton's definitely close. Anglo-Saxon. And then so the populations should be closest to actually would be Southeast English, Southwest English, South Dutch, modern day Irish, West Scottish, Flemish, French, and Northern German. So there we go. Then admixture would be big percentage of North Sea, Atlantic, some Baltic, Eastern Euro, Western Mediterranean, West Asian, East Mediterranean, Siberian, and Oceania. Then here we'll say Northeast European's a good portion, Atlantic, Mediterranean, Neolithic, Indo-Iranian, North European Mesolithic, West Asian, Northeast, and oh, that's cool, North Amerindian. So it said that there was no Native American results, but seems like it's showing up here. Small percentage of Native ancestry, less carried over for, and then 0.2% Sub-Saharan African. Okay, so, or well, it could also be connection to North African as well. I'd have to, because sometimes it can kind of mix, but yeah, at least some connection to Africa. Okay. So here, we're almost done actually. We've, I think, touched a lot of good bases here so far. We're almost 2 hours into the stream. So, tells you, oh wow. So you can see in this map of ancient Britannia, there's a lot of like markers in England for sure, some in Scotland, and one in Northern Ireland and one in the west of Ireland, actually. It's pretty cool. Yeah. A lot of English. Burgundy, France. Oh, there's actually a Mulhouse. There you go. I think Burgundy, France is in northeastern France, I think. Oh, ancient China. I don't know, maybe. I don't know. So if it's right, you know. Um, okay, so Romano-Celtic Britain. Okay. Gaul. Okay. One place near Paris. Oh, some in southern Germany. Northwestern Italian. No, yeah. Ancient, ancient Germania. You see a lot of northern Germany, some southern Germany, Czech, Prague, Netherlands, Hungary, and then some southern Denmark and southern Sweden. And when you go to Scandinavia, you see Norway here, one mark. You see a lot of you see some Denmark and some southern Sweden. Here's an island, the coast. Oh, sorry. Stonehenge in Wiltshire. Somewhere. Suffolk, Cambridge. This would be northern Germany, southern Denmark, I believe. Yep. Big Odinus. Aurelia Pannonia. So mainly Hungary. Not much more than that. Bavaria. There's a few markers there. Roman Republic, probably not in there. Not in here. Colonial North America. There's Delaware and Washington. And then Spain. Anything here? Spain, Portugal. I don't know. Ancient Africa. Anything? Nope. Medieval London. Not shown there. City of ancient Rome. And then ancient Greece. Anything here? Not that I see. Okay, but it was that kind of cool, at least going through that. Indo-Scandinavia just kind of tells you the ancestors where they had lived. Germania. Okay. Okay, and then here it will tell you kind of like the lineages of Jules' paternal haplogroups from her father, her father's father, and then her mother and her mother's mother. Some from her father's, primarily R1b overwhelmingly. I2 is also here, I2A1. Yeah, this could go back over 8,000 years, or well, 7,000. Well, 9,000, I guess, would be kind of the accurate. way of looking at it. Okay, yeah, South Slavic, Sardinian, I2A, I2B would be Saxon, Germanic. So a lot of this would be kind of probably Neolithic European actually for I2A. Then A1, yeah, so that'd be probably like a connection to Nordic kind of groups. I1A, 3, I1A1. Okay. R1A would be like Eastern European, Slavic, Viking Gallic mix. J2B, that would be Aurelian. E1B would be like connection to like Egyptian and ancient, partially like part connection to Greece. R2, R2, where does that come from? R2 origin. Oh, so it's found mainly India, Pakistan, Iran, and southern Central Asia. So there you go. And then D1, I think D1 is like found in Japan, I'm gonna say. Well, wait. Yeah, so actually D1, D1 A2A, East Asian diverged from the Japanese D1 A2A lineage 53,000 years ago. Hmm. So there might be some Ainu or Jolman ancestry actually. Yeah. So my friend Jewel might be partially related to indigenous Japanese. So there you go. Okay. So here it will say who she's most closely related to as far as um, DNA castles, like Clan MacPhail. Let's give you like a date of like the ancestors. Clan Lepore. I'll give you an idea of that. Tartans, Clan MacPhail, Clan Kerman, Clan Cunningham, Clan Menzies, and Clan Caruthers. Oh yeah, then here there's a lot of different clans she's related to. One of the clans, she actually has an overlap with me, or well, she has actually several, but like, well, there's Armstrong, Weir, and others, but there's one in particular, Clan Donahane, which I connect a lot with because it goes to, connects back to Donegal, actually. And I think I also had like some cousins that were, had the last name Ross, so there's also that there. You can see loads of different clans here. This would be from her father's lineage, even some Welsh royalty. Goes really far back. Yeah, so you can see all the connections here. Oh, there is a connection to Greek royalty. I think that was from her mom's side. But a lot of it is definitely very much so Northern European for the most part. Swedish royalty, Danish royalty, but mostly a lot in Scotland actually. Scotland, Northern England for sure. Even some in Ireland. Yeah. Clan Gillen. Oh, Tyrconnell. Okay, here we go. So she does have a connection to Clan Gillen, actually. Like, because that was one of the big clans I was also connected to as well. So let me see if I can find that. Okay, so she does have. Okay, 0.21% Clan Gillen. All right, there you go. So there is a, because yeah, I think for me, I think it was probably at least like 30% or something, or 28. So she does have that connection to Tyrconnell, which is nice indeed. And I would just tell you like different migrational paths. Oh wow. Yeah, so and then this would be her mother's, all the way back to all the mothers, ancestries. So it seems here that there's actually a big connection to England and Bohemia, but also Scotland is mentioned, and then Germany, J1, J1C, J1C, J1, J1, J1C, J1C. I think J1 would fall under Jewish and Arabic, I think. Yeah, I think that's how it goes. Because, and this would be like the samples that my friend Jewel would share, through her mother's lineage. Uh, so J1C, making up most of the population of the Arabian Peninsula. 20% of, let's see, J1's, hold on. Yeah, I want to make sure I get this right because it's a lot of new info. So you can see J1 is, oops, my bad. Sorry about that. J1 is seen in parts of Spain, France, Italy, actually, North Africa, the Balkans, and then especially as you get into the Caucasus, Middle East. Oh boy, sorry. J1A, J1B. Then where's J1C? I don't see it there. Well, here. J1, formerly known as J1C3. Pre-Ptolemaic Egyptian mummy dating from 660 before Common Era. About the same, developed 5,800 years ago, which is about the same age as the first Semitic languages. Let's see. J1. That's a lot. J1A. Oop, my bad. That's got me. Oh, so this would be J1A2B would be the connection here? Or J2A2, I think that's what it, J2A2B. Taurus and Zagros Island mountains and all over the Caucasus regions. A few samples in Greece, Arabian Peninsula. Okay. So a lot of J1C3 though. Origin. Sorry about that. The J. Arabian Peninsula, Northern Africa. J1C occurred most frequently in Europe. Okay then. So definitely, it seems like it might have been like a mixture, maybe Arabic or Jewish. Yeah, I think so. Okay, here we go. Wait, no, no, no. No, that's right, that's right. Hopefully I didn't mess that up. Um, wait, let me make sure I got this right. Okay, because I don't want to get this wrong, actually. Haplogroup J is relatively evenly distributed across all Europe. The only population which is absent are the Sami. J1B are rare in Europe and is essentially confined to the Middle East. J1B. Okay, so I see some here, but J1C3. Oh, Neolithic France, Northwestern Europe, France, Switzerland, Germany. Okay, I think I might have messed up because I think before I was looking at the Y DNA, not the maternal DNA. I think that's why I messed up there. My bad. I didn't mean to do that. So J1C3G, Northwestern Europe, Russia, Bronze Age Poland. Um, okay. England, Estonia, Russia, and Macedonia. Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, sorry about that, guys. I accidentally, I didn't mean to mess that up. Okay, so, and then haplogroup K is there. U5. K, I think. Ireland, Netherlands, Jordan. K1C. Oh, Mesolithic Greece. Okay, there you go. So, Italy and England. Oh, that's cool. U5. Okay. Yeah, I think U5 especially, I think that's usually like that's definitely found in like Northern Europe. So there you go. But it can also be found like U5 3 B3 can be found in Sardinia, Italy, Greece, France, Spain, Iraq, Sicily, Italy, um, especially in Sardinia. So yeah, it's right there. 5-2, Russia, Central Asia, Siberia, India. H5, W. Yeah, so that's kind of the gist of that. Yeah, I figured it'd be kind of neat to share that because I know she might have found that interesting. But yeah, sorry about the initial part, especially like with J, because I know J, like J1 usually denotes Jewish or Arabic, and J2 is usually like sometimes some Jews can have J2, but it's usually denoted as like Mennonian Greek or Aurelian, and that would be from but that would be like the Y DNA. So then here's a list of Jules' heritages from her mother's lineages. Oh man, we've been going on this for a while now, but we're almost done, guys. It's been a long video, but I figure it's been worth it ultimately. So here's French royalty, Austrian royalty, Spanish royalty, Bohemian, Holy Roman Empire, German, Scottish, Danish, Sardinian, Russian. Oh, there's a Sardinian, Greek, Italian, some Russian, Romanian, and yeah, I'll just tell you like deep dive matches from um like this would be Jules' maternal ancestry. You can see a lot of his England, Bohemia. And then from Jules' paternal lineages, you can see this. So both have Cheddar Man. Okay, so the DNA spotlight. No, Jules not related to Vlad Dracula in the House of Basarab. So no, she's not related to them. She does have a connection to ancient Britain and Stonehenge from 9,000 years ago. This would have been from I to A1. So it would have been like the same connection as Sardinians actually. So because I to A, yeah, it would have been South Slavic or probably when they mean South Slavic, it's really um, it's not just like Slavic people, but really more so probably also connected to people from Sardinia or Mesolithic Europe, pretty much, especially Western Europe. So here you have a lot of big kind of matches with Viking Age Hedeby and the Danevirke. It's founded in 770 AD as an important Viking Age stronghold in southern Jutland. Second to Birka in Sweden, it was the most important Viking trade center in Europe. Its Old Norse name, Hediaber, means heath settlement. Began as a series of jets and workshops constructed by Danish Vikings. The first written records date from 804 Common Era. Here, Hedeby was located at the crossroads of Saxon, Slavic, and Frisian territories at the end of the Schwell River in a series of bays connecting to the Baltic Sea. The city quickly attained great wealth as a mercantile settlement with extensive trading ties to Western Europe, Scandinavia, Slavic lands, the Byzantine East, as well as the Arab world. Trade was flowing, but these were dangerous times. So she would have been connected to, um, yeah, southern Jutland, which we mentioned. Yeah, a lot of southern Jutland, yeah. Hill forts of Britain. Celtic hill forts were much more than simple fortifications, referred to epidi by the Romans. They were fortified town centers which would form the center of a Celtic community. Unlike a castle, they had no keep, but they could have quite elaborate defensive structures. The walled interior space could fit upwards of 50 football pitches. Shown in this video is the hill fort of Canterbury Castle, located in Somerset. This particular site is exciting as it is associated with King Arthur's legendary account at Camelot. Oh, there you go. The hill fort had been constructed originally in the Bronze Age. Extended use throughout the Iron Age, in the past the Roman Age until 580, and you can see there are some close connections there actually. Philip Calvert, 1683. George Calvert was the first to dream of a colony in America where Catholics and Protestants could prosper together. George had studied at Trinity College at Oxford and had been knighted by King James I for good service as an advisor. Sir George Calvert became Secretary of State for the King. Having just converted to Catholicism, he was forced to resign from his job, so the King gave him another title. First Baron of Baltimore, a town on the Irish coast. So 80% genetic distance. Deep dive. Blarney Castle, there's a 21% connection. Blarney Castle is a medieval stronghold located in Blarney near Cork, Ireland, so that would be in Southern Ireland. Stone Keep was built by the McCarthy of Muskerry dynasty and dates from 1446. The famous Blarney Stone is also found among the battlements. The castle was besieged during the Irish Confederate Wars and seized in 1646 by parliamentarian forces. However, it was returned to Donell McCarthy. He became first Earl of Cloncarty. The castle was also captured and confiscated by the Williamites in the 1690s, who supported King William as the successor of James II. Afterwards, the castle was sold and changed hands several times before being bought by the governor of Cork in the 18th century. Today, the castle is open to visitors and surrounded by extensive gardens, rock formations including the Wishing Steps Druid Circle. All right. King Louis XVI. 46% match. French revolutionists condemned King Louis XVI death on 21st January 1793. Yeah, so this was kind of a quote-unquote time of upheaval during French history. So, Roman gladiators. Oh, 81% match. Roman conquest of Britain began in 43 Common Era. Resistance in the north was fierce. Roman general Quintilius Serlius led the 9th Legion to the north and founded Arboriacum in 71 Common Era. Yeah. So oh, so apparently they had matches in York during this time, just like in Rome, I guess. Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna try to wrap this up pretty soon because I'm getting a wee bit tired. But talks here. Ancestral seat of Clan Menzies and the Menzies baronets. So this is a connection to Scotland, actually. St. Patrick. You can see here. Oh, Eric the Red. There you go. This would be from her mother's lineage. This was essentially a connection to the Viking who had found Greenland before Columbus. So there you go. Hanseatic League. Dorset Viking Massacre. Yeah, that sounds pretty bloody. Yeah. So it really was kind of a time between, I guess, the Anglo-Saxons who were there, and then the Vikings who were still coming from Scandinavia that they still hadn't learned how to get along with one another, seemingly enough. All right, so here it says here this is where Jules' ancestors once lived. Roman York, Trumpington Meadows, Cheddar Gorge, Roman Canterbury, Hickston, Cambridgeshire, Iron Age, Pocklington, Ridgeway, Vikings, Dorset, a lot of UK, Amesbury. Oh, Viking Age, Hittite, Germany, medieval Pisan, Turin in northwestern Italy, Hungary, Schla, Rosslyn Island in Ireland, Viking Kattegaard, Varnheim, Sweden, Viking Sigtuna, Sweden, Gotland, Frejl, Åland, Getlinge, and Vents, Darler, Viking Boat Burial, Iceland. All right. Okay. Then it just ends with like what Jules' ancestors. Oh, that's well. Let me see here. Seems that her ancestors' diet consisted of beer, salmon, wheat, porridge, trout, oats, milk, barley, boar, and then the list goes on. But alright, guys. Ooh, that was a long stream. A lot longer than I thought it was going to take. But anyways, I think this is a good place to stop. Hope you guys enjoyed. Hope you guys found this interesting to watch. And I'll be heading off for now. Slán go fóill. Bye for now, guys. Bye for now.